A top focus on the show. Let's start the show with an economic roundup of the markets this past month. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average jumped on Friday for its best session of the year. This as investors wrapped up a strong month after the Federal Reserve's preferred inflation measure, which came in largely around expectations. The blue chip Dow climbed over 1.51%, lifted by Salesforce and United Health's respective advances. The Nasdaq Composite ticked lower as Nvidia and a few other technology stocks took a hit. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq snapped 5-week win streaks. The blue chip Dow slipped 0.98% for the week, marking a second straight week of losses. Now, despite the tough week, it was a winning May, with each of the major benchmarks registering a sixth positive month in 7. A chunk of May's strength can be attributed to a surge in Nvidia, which released blockbuster earnings last week, though the artificial intelligence darling stock fell about 0.8% on Friday. Shares ended the month nearly 27% higher. Well, as we track the major earnings this quarter, companies shattered records with a surge in stock buybacks, suggesting strong corporate confidence in future earnings. A total of 154 companies announced $201 billion in planned buybacks, marking an all-time high. Now, across the pond in Europe, the regional stock 600 index was higher as markets closed. Sectors were mostly in positive territory, with utilities adding while tech lost. The Stock 600 benchmark finished the month of May 2.3% higher, its biggest gain since March. Eurozone inflation rose to 2.6% in May, slightly higher than the 2.5% that the experts had predicted. The uptick comes as the European Central Bank is widely expected to cut rates at its June 6th meeting, the first reduction since 2019. French consumer prices rose by a higher than expected 2.7% in May. Higher energy costs pushed up inflation from 2.4% in April. Italy's economy grew in line with expectations in the first quarter, expanding by 0.3% on an annual basis. GDP for the January to March period was up to 0.7% from the 0.6% that was estimated earlier. Moving on to Asia, markets mostly rose on Friday as investors parsed data from major economies across other industrial output figures, which rather showed surprise inflation, core inflation in Japan's capital Tokyo, which rose 1.9% in May. South Korea's industrial production index rose 2.2% month-on-month in April. On a seasonally adjusted basis, data from China showed its manufacturing sector contracted in May. Well, overall, Asian markets closed out the week and the month on a downbeat note as worries grow over the strength of the U.S. and global economies. In the commodities market, U.S. crude oil finished out its worst month of the year. This comes ahead of an OPEC Plus meeting this weekend, during which the group will review its production levels. Well, U.S. oil finished May down 6% in its worst performance since November, while global benchmark Brent fell 7.1% this month. OPEC Plus members on Sunday are expected to review output cuts of 2.2 million barrels per day. Oil demand has been lackluster due to a warm winter that reduced heating oil demand and the Federal Reserve's indications that rates will remain higher or even longer, further challenging hopes for a demand rebound in the second half of the year. Chinese refineries' output has also slumped, and European refineries have been slow to return from spring maintenance. Gold prices eased on Friday as investors digested U.S. inflation report that was largely in line with estimates, although expectations that the Federal Reserve will cut rates this year. Bullion clocked its fourth straight monthly gain on May 20th. Prices hit an all-time high of $2,450, while gold is often considered a safeguard against inflation. Higher rates increase the opportunity cost of holding the non-yielding asset. Well, overall, optimism around the U.S. economy helped stocks gain this month. but uncertainty over rate cuts kept the markets volatile.